Yes, we're back. It's episode 39 of the Hibs Ramble. It's just myself and the most handsome man in Musselburgh today, Shaun. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good, thank you. How are you? Oh, Liam, what's that you're drinking out of? That looks lovely.
Look at this. This is I'm very well, thanks. This is a Hibs Ramble mug, and it's got the Hibs Ramble logo on one side, and on the other side it's got the infamous quote from Sean Corrigan as he was describing the Livingston pie that says, "I don't like a hard rim. I like my rims to be a little bit softer so I can get in easier," which I think is, one of the best pieces of life advice, and needed to be put on a mug. But the funny thing about this mug, Shaun, is that we've actually got two to give away to our listeners, in a giveaway that we're going to do when we get to 1,000 Twitter followers. I got one for me and I got one for you and Craig and Mark, but there's two also here for our listeners, and we've got a couple of bucket hats as well, which haven't arrived yet. So if you want to be in with a chance of winning one of these bad boys with Shaun's lovely quote on the back, then get involved and follow our Twitter, and you're in me a chance, and we'll let you know all about it when we reach 1,000 followers. But enough of the positivity. Let's get on to the football. Shaun, beaten 2-1 by Dundee United yesterday. A year to the day that we were beaten 3-1 by Hearts at Tynecastle. I remember that because it was the day my daughter was born. It was her first birthday yesterday. So I think she is a terrible, terrible omen for when we played. But let's jump straight in it. Lineup, there was 4 changes. McCurdy, Newell, Yuan and Chabraya came in for Stevenson, Doyle Hayes, Hoppe and Hanlon. Were you expecting to see as many as 4 changes, and were those the players that you expected to come in?
I expected Newell to come in. I expected Yuan to come in, and that was maybe about it. I didn't really want to see Hoppe in the lineup. I didn't really want to see Jake Doyle Hayes in the lineup. I was actually quite excited. I don't know why, because we as Hibs fans have absolutely no reason to be excited by Harry McCurdy at the moment. But I was quite excited when I saw him in the lineup. He got a bit of flack last week by his performance when he came on, and I don't think he was the problem last week. There was many other problems, and I think he's got a lot of flack this week from yesterday's performance. And again, I don't think he was the main problem. But I was excited to see him. Again, it's just not quite clicking for him. Don't know if it's quite harsh on Stevenson as well. I was really, really annoyed that Kukarevic wasn't in the starting 11. Seems to be that Johnson just can't quite find a way to get them in, him and Nisbet and Yuan, in the 11 together.
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have seen Lewis Miller in there. I think his performance at Parkhead kind of merited a game against Motherwell at least, and then I don't think Cadden covered himself in glory in the Motherwell game. Obviously, I wasn't on the pod to talk about it, and then I don't think Cadden covered himself in glory yesterday either. So we might end up seeing Lewis Miller back in the team sooner rather than later. But we'll kick off, and I thought it was a fairly positive start to the half for the first 5.5 minutes, and we had a really, really good chance, and I mean, there's no about it. It really should have been 1-0. Really good work from McCurdy down the right hand side. Like you said, I don't think he was the problem yesterday, or it wasn't a major part of the problem. Was it a cross or was it a shot that found Nisbet in the 6-yard box?
I'll go with a cross. I still don't know how Nisbet's not put that away. If I'm honest at all.
I think it's a great touch from Birighitti in the goal.
Yeah, I think. I just don't know if he maybe should have went with his left instead and kind of opened up his body and tried to put it in the other goal. It just didn't seem a lot of space. I think it was maybe just one of those where he's just tried to get any connection, and 9 times out of 10 that's going to go in, but unfortunately it didn't, and that just kind of summed up how our day was going to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they touched on it in the telly that he maybe should have went for the other corner, but the ball was fired into him. I don't think he really had an awful lot of time to think about it. I don't actually know that if he knew too much about it. I think it just hits him, and a really good touch from Birighitti to keep it out, and then obviously Dundee United go up the other end. It's a cross in from our right, their left, which has been a consistent problem for a number of years now. And I've got down here in my notes, CJ and Chabraya, soft as shite. Fletcher with a really powerful header to open the scoring. To be honest, yeah, it's a difficult one, because see, when you look at that Dundee United team, I'm going to sound like Mark Duncan here, but you look at that Dundee United team, there's no way that they should be bottom of the table, or even anywhere near the bottom of the table.
I did also look at that Dundee United side and think there is absolutely no way we can get beat by this side as well.
I didn't think that. We're Hibs fans, Shaun.
Yeah, I know. But if you look at it, like if you match it up and you look at the quality per quality across the 11, I felt like we would have and should have had enough to get it. You're right what you're saying. We have had a lot of problems with balls coming in from either side, never mind just the right. I don't really know how much longer Cadden can get away with his lack of defensive ability. If he's not caught too far in the pitch, he's caught in too far up the pitch, and that happened a lot at the weekend as well. It is frustrating to see. It's annoying because I think a lot of the Hibs fans rate CJ Egan really, but clearly just after yesterday's performance, not at centre half. I think when you're playing two really young centre halves against, well, they were probably both in diapers when Stephen Fletcher was playing for Hibs, so it just kind of goes to show that he's going to have a lot more experience, and that showed yesterday as well. Very frustrating, the fact that apparently, if rumours are to be believed, we had the option to sign Stephen Fletcher in the summer and turned it down. I don't know if you want to read into that one or believe that.
I know, but the thing is, Shaun, you can't go, oh, we should have signed him just because he scored against us.
No, but the experience that he's got, I think, would have really helped us this season in the forward line. And I think he's got a lot to offer, as you can see. And I think he scored the vast majority of Dundee United's goals. And when you come up against defenders like a young Will Fish and Egan Riley, it's no surprise that he was able to bully them. So yeah, it just goes to show that we're lacking, Paul Hanlon, which doesn't get said that often.
Came what really annoyed me about the goal, more than the defending, more than anything else really, more than even going, like, actually losing the goal, was the fact that Stephen Fletcher looked so happy and he celebrated so animated, like, when he scored. And that, I was disappointed in him. I was watching it and I was going, Stephen,
you're better than that.
Come on, Stephen. You're better than that, Stephen. Come on. What do you think players should celebrate or not celebrate when they score against their former sides?
I think it depends on the circumstances. Obviously, Stephen played for Hibs a very, very long time ago. I don't begrudge him celebrating, considering the state that Dundee United are in. I think it's maybe a bit different if, like, Kevin Nisbet goes to Celtic or Rangers and then scores against us. Do you know what I mean? Like the following season, because it's happened directly after it, not 19 years down the line. So I think the circumstances should dictate that. To go back to the soft as shit defending, it just seems to show kind of where we're at the moment with our defending. Chabraya has been like that for a long time now, not willing to kind of throw his body on the line. And I guess that kind of shows what you lack at the back when you've not got people like Lewis Stevenson, Paul Hanlon, Darren McGregor, Ryan Pochis, who are Hibs through and through, and whether they have the ability or not, because obviously Paul and Lewis are getting older, they're still willing to throw their body on the line. I think Paul and Lewis would have dealt with that ball in a lot better than CJ and Chabraya.
Well, you'd like to think so, eh? Even after the goal, I thought our reaction to the goal was very poor. I don't recall us having too many chances, although my memory is kind of cloudy because I watched the first half an hour, the first 25 minutes or so in the house, and then we went to my daughter's first birthday party, and I had to watch the rest. Me and my dad and Mila's granddad were crowded around my phone watching it. So
you're right though. We were really, really poor. There wasn't a reaction after it. I felt like I could have turned off the television and just accepted the fact that we had got beat. I did not expect us to get back into it, and it looked very similar to the Motherwell performance, where there was just no urgency in the play, and just a lack of intensity from us at all until like the last 15 minutes. 20 minutes.
It's been a lot of. It's kind of, this season. It's kind of reminded me of times under a lot of different managers, whereas it's been like different weeks, same shit, basically.
A lot of the players just coasting by towards the end of the season.
A lot of passengers. I'm not in the business of calling out professional football players about their abilities, because it's not really what I'm about. I'm not a pro footballer. I couldn't step in and do what they do. But I thought James Jago was disappointing yesterday. I thought Newell was disappointing yesterday. I thought Josh Campbell was disappointing yesterday, which disappointed me, given how well Josh Campbell's actually played this season and how much I've been talking him up and bigging him up and everything.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think when you've got a midfield 3 against a midfield 2, which is what they had, and they're still, running us over in midfield and getting the better of us, it just kind of sums up where we were. All 3 of them just weren't at the races. Joe was the best out of the 3, but even then, I'm not saying he got pass marks at all, because even his performance was poor. I don't know if there's a bit of rustiness from him, but yeah, when you've got all 3 your centre midfielders way off it, nothing's going to work.
I think Mark touched on it in the chat, and he was saying that, you look at the players that are playing now under Lee Johnson, and these are the players. I'm not saying that the players have got the managers sacked, but these are the players that were consistently playing when Jack Ross got the chop, when Sean Maloney got sacked. How many more managers is it going to take to realise that a midfield 3 of players that are, totally similar? I feel like Jago, Campbell, and Newell are very, very similar players. How many managers is it going to take to understand that a midfield 3 of players like that doesn't work?
I actually think that all 3 of them are completely different players, but
shut up, Sean.
But none of them can play together as a 3, which sounds strange, because Jago's meant to be there as a deep lying midfielder where he breaks up play and gives the ball to everyone else to do the job. He's not done that the last 3 or 4 weeks. Joe Newell's meant to be this box-to-box, not playmaker, but just a box-to-box player who breaks up play, gets in people's faces, and again just tries to create things here and there. And Josh Campbell's just a workhorse who plays in the 10 and just tries to feed off everything else. So I think they all bring, or are meant to bring, different things to the pitch and to the game and to the squad, but none of them are clicking and none of them can play together. And I think it's because of the lack of ability that the 3 of them have for what we're needing in that midfield 3. I think that is the problem more than anything else. But we'll obviously get on to where that leaves us and what we should maybe be looking for.
Aye, well, we will get on to that. But even just talking about it now, I feel like when CJ Egan-Riley is in that midfield 3, it's a lot more assured. There feels like there's a little bit more cohesion. For someone as young as that to step in and kind of bond together that midfield 3, I think is really telling about the player that he is. But like he says, I don't think Jago, Newell. It can be a combination of about 5 or 6 different players in there, and it doesn't work. And we've seen it for years. You think about Doyle Hayes and Newell, Campbell, other players that I can't really think of at this moment in time. But no, we're kind of getting off track. But let's give Hibs a wee bit credit where credit's due. I thought our goal was very, very well worked. A beautiful ball in from Chabraya. It was kind of a carbon copy, a little bit of Stephen Fletcher's goal, from where the cross came in, and where it landed in the box. A really, really nice bit of control from Miko, and it's a thundering finish. I actually thought he just about missed it. I think it clipped the bar on its way in.
Yeah.
But That's what we're missing, an absolute thunder bastard up front.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I said earlier on, I thought he should have started. So when he came on, it can sometimes be quite tough for players to get into the match, especially when the tempo is not great and your team's not playing very well. But the ball in from Trabaya is magnificent. Very similar to the ball that Cadden put in last week for Nisbet, but obviously on the other side, it's good to see that he does have that in the locker instead of always hitting the first man. The touch and then finish from Miko is sensational. It's brilliant. I thought he was maybe going to take it first time, which worried me, but the composure to take that touch, bring it down, and then smash it into the goal is exactly what we needed. And then we were on top until obviously the penalty. We had a couple of other chances, which I'm sure you're going to mention just now. But at that point, for that spell, we were on top, but we can't get away with just being on top for 10-15 minutes in a 90-minute match. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think that it's been a characteristic of Hibs for a long time with it. It seems it takes us a half and a goal down to kind of give ourselves a kick up the arse and really start playing. But no, listen, I think you're absolutely right when you talk about Kukurevich should have started. I think he's exactly the kind of striker that we needed up there. We knew it was going to be a scrappy game. They're a big physical side. You get Charlie Mulgrew and stuff at the back. He's always going to be leaving an elbow in or this, that, and the next thing. I think Kukurevich probably would have been the ideal choice for me if I was picking the team. We don't know if fitness might have been an issue. That might have been why he never started. We don't really know these things, but
Lee Johnson did mention in his post-match interview that was the reason for the selection he made was down to fitness and injury. So maybe Miko's just maybe not at 100% and can't play the 90 minutes, which is why he's decided to go with what he goes with. But let's just hope he starts them next week.
Even then, you think if he's not got 90 minutes in him, what's more effective? Starting him and giving him an hour, or 70 minutes, or bringing him on for the last half hour?
No, I completely
agree. He's not only got half an hour in him.
And even if he's got 45 minutes plus in him, if he's got anything more than a half in him,
he's got to start.
If he's one of your best players, you should be starting him. Get the game done, get the game won, and then you can start taking people off instead of having to bring him on when he's not 100% fit and we're chasing a game.
Devil's advocate, though, when you think about it, are you just putting him in there for putting him in their sake, or that means that then if you put him on, do you leave Nisbet out, or then if you keep Nisbet on, then who do you have on the bench to change the game?
Yeah, no, I know. I was thinking about moving forward, and that when we get onto that later on in the episode, when we go through kind of the Hearts game and who we think we should play and how we should play, I'll get onto my reasonings and stuff then. But no, I completely agree that you want to also have an option coming from the bench, and sometimes maybe starting someone like Harry McCurdy and having a strong Kukurevich on the bench. I can understand from that perspective, but for me, I am a firm believer of doing all you can to win the game as early as you can, and then doing whatever it is else you need to do from there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You touched on other chances. I've got down here the Nisbet free kick and the Yuan 1-on-1. The Yuan 1-on-1, I'm gutted that he's not put it in. It's the type of chance that he's been scoring recently. The Nisbet free kick is a wonderful hit. It's inches away. Looking back on it, and in hindsight, we could have, if those two chances had gone in, or one of them would have went in, we could have went on and romped it 3 or 4-1.
Yeah, I think if one of those goes in, we go on to win the game. Dundee United were on the ropes at that point. Stephen Fletcher said in his post-match interview that he was worried, and he himself was thinking, oh no, is this going to happen again? And he was concerned that some of the other players would be thinking that. Dundee United have conceded the most amount of goals in the last 15 minutes in the league. So it comes as no surprise that we were able to get back on top towards the end of the match. It's just unfortunate that Kevin Nisbet's free kick hits the bar and doesn't maybe hit the goalkeeper and go in. And Yuan, like you said, has been putting them away. So I was very surprised that he didn't actually finish the chance, and that again, similar to the Nisbet chance in the first half, just kind of summed up how our day was, because they then went down the other half and get a penalty, which, is it soft? Yes. Is it a penalty? In today's game, I'm going to go with yes, but I don't think it should be a penalty. It's very soft. If it's going for you, you're screaming for it. If it's going against you, you're saying it's not. So it's one of those. And I actually think that whatever the decision the referee gave, I don't think VAR would have overruled it, because I don't think either way it would have been a clear and obvious error. My concern was, why is Will Fish not diving in, but why is he giving the referee a decision to make? Because Stephen Fletcher's going away from goal, he's leaving the box, Lewis Stevenson's going to win the ball and is right next to him. So that's more of my concern, is how we have dealt with that situation, not the fact that we were in that situation.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you whether it's a soft penalty. I think it is a penalty when you go by the standards of what's been given in the division this season. In real time, it looks like a penalty. I think if the referee didn't give it, for me, I think VAR would have given it. It's the slightest of touches, but with the speed that Fletcher was going, I don't think you can really call it a dive. The slightest of touches sends him down, and it's, he's an experienced striker. He'll go down if he feels any touch. I'm not saying that diver anyway. I don't think he will. But
Fletcher said himself he knew that if he made it, he was going to, if he made it to the ball before Fish, he knew that it was curtains and he was going to get the penalty. So
yeah, and he did, and I think it's clever play. We were applauding Martin Boyle for winning penalties like that. Yeah, even Ryan Porteous for winning penalties like that and being clever and trying to and trying to get penalties like that. So for me, it's a clever bit of play. And then at the end of the days, Jamie McGrath's tucked away the penalty. But I don't really want to talk about this game anymore because it's upsetting me. Let's move on swiftly. To where this leaves us. And I've got here, it leaves us in 6th. We're 7 points off 3rd, but we're only 8 points off 9th. What, Sean, is the likelihood that we don't even get top 6?
The likelihood of that at the moment is very, very high, in my opinion, because we're going to play Hearts, and we'll get on to their situation in a second. But I never go into derbies confident, so I don't expect us to win it. I didn't expect us to win it before Nielsen was sacked, and I don't expect us to win it now. Then we go and play St Johnstone, and St Johnstone notoriously a tough ground for us to go to and get something. It's going to be a difficult match. I think we'll draw that game, but I can't remember who Livingston have first, but I know who they have last is a very winnable game. So I think although Livingston will lose their next game at the weekend, they'll win the weekend we play St Johnstone, and then that'll take them above us. I think they play St Johnstone this weekend, so they're more than likely possible to pick up a point or something against them. But then they play Dundee United away, which, yes, I know we just got beat by them, but I think Livingston have a little bit more about them to go and take points.
Livingston are a different team. I think Livingston they're better set up to go there and have a fight against Dundee United. We went there yesterday to try and play them off the park, and it just didn't end up working. But I think everyone is here for the question that I'm going to ask next, Sean, and it's Lee Johnson, should he stay or should he go? And give me reasons.
Well, first of all, I can understand why a lot of people want him sacked, because the go-to reason for wanting to get a manager sacked is your runny form, your lack of enjoyment, watching your team, and the fact that we've had 3 sticky spells of bad form where we're not even picking up like a draw here or there, like their defeats. A lot of people still haven't forgiven him for getting knocked out of the League Cup and treating that the way that he did. We've obviously had the 3 back-to-back derby defeats. What annoyed me is the fact that we've played Dundee United.
3?
Sorry, the 2 3-0 defeats. That's what I meant. Sorry, the 2 3-0 defeats.
Well, I'm
preempting what's going to happen. What annoys me is that we've played Dundee United, bottom of the league, who have been bottom of the league for months, and they've taken 7 points out of 9 off us this season. We've not competed against the Old Firm. We've conceded about 22, 23 goals against the Old Firm and only got maybe 1 point as well. And we're the only team in the league to have been beaten by everyone else in the league as well. So I can understand why a lot of people want him out. So I'm going to then contradict everything that I've just said and say that I want him to stay. Now, I will give you my working for this, Liam, because I know that's what you want. But I was just playing devil's advocate and giving you all the bad nonsense that he's put us through.
You want the bad news or the good news?
Exactly.
I'll give you the bad news first.
Bad news, Lee Johnson is your manager. Good news, Lee Johnson is your manager. What one do you want? I want him to stay. The reason for that is I think he is trying to get the club in a better state. And what I mean by that is you've alluded to it a couple of times already about the players that we have and how many managers they've went through and how it's the same players and we've got the same type of players in the same position, and it's the same players that are putting us through the shite in recent years. And you can see that it's frustrating Lee Johnson as well. It would not surprise me in the slightest if we finish in the bottom 6 and we get beat off Hearts at the weekend and Lee Johnson is still on a job, because I think that the club fully back him. Now, the reason why I think that is because I think that the club have accepted the fact that their recruitment policy has not been great over the last couple of years, and the structure behind Lee Johnson in regards to getting a better team on the pitch isn't anywhere where it needs to be in regards to that's why they're bringing a director of football in. A lot of people are moaning that the director of football things went really quiet recently, but as we both know, Liam, they are down to the final 5, and for all we know, the final 5 are in jobs. So, Ben Kensal isn't going to come out and say, we're down to the final 5, we're interviewing them, blah, 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 and name them, because obviously if they're in a job. I think the club want to get that done and dusted as soon as possible to put us in the right frame of mind as a club for moving forward in the summer to have a really strong transfer window. So I think if we get the right director of football in, obviously Ian Gordon isn't going to be head of recruitment anymore because he's having to take on like an executive director kind of role now with everything else that's happened at the club. So there'll be a head of recruitment coming in. There's going to be a revamp of the recruitment aspect of the club. And I think that, for me, has been the problem in recent years, not necessarily the manager. So I think if we can get the right director of football, the right head of recruitment, and they're all singing off the same hymn sheet as Lee Johnson, then we can heavily recruit correctly in the summer, which will then allow us to take us forward, because I think Lee Johnson himself is very frustrated that he has a lot of similar players in the same position, like using the midfield, for example. My concern is Lee Johnson keeps going on about loans in the summer, so that concerns me because I want permanent deals and not necessarily loans. But I think if we get that right off the park, we'll have a strong transfer window, and I think we will be able to have a lot of right transfers done at the right time in the summer to allow us to have a stronger start to next season, albeit whether we're in Europe or not. And that is why I think Lee Johnson should stay.
Right now, Shaun, you can take a breath. No,
I'm wary it's to you, so I'm trying to cover both parts for everyone involved.
I'm going to be really boring and just completely agree with you. I think the most important thing for us at the moment is to get that foundation laid well with the points that you spoke about there in terms of backroom staff and heads and stuff. I don't think sacking Lee Johnson is the way to go. We spoke about it in the chat. That would be 4 managers in 4 years.
Yeah.
It would also mean that the last 2 managers never saw out a full season if he was to go, like either today or after we get beat on Saturday. Which for me, it reminds me a lot of Forrester, my English team, and it reminds me a lot of them before they got promoted. They were going through 2 managers a season, and they were bringing in, I know they've brought in like 20 players this season, but like they were consistently every window bringing in so many new players, and the turnover was so high, and like there was no consistency. There was absolutely nothing. And I just don't want Hibs to be like that, because it's not going to get us anywhere. Having wholesale changes all the time, I understand why there's a core group of players, but there's no point in having a core group of players if the philosophy is changing every 6 months because the manager is. For me, Lee Johnson, if he finishes bottom 6, gets beat by Hearts, I could completely understand why the board would let him go. But if it was me in charge, I would say, no, we'll keep him. We'll give him another summer window. We'll see how he does up until Christmas. If we're languishing down the bottom of the league, then we'll maybe think about a change. But at the end of the day, look at what 2 or 3 wins in this division can give you. If we win on Saturday and then we go and beat St Johnstone, we'll be comfortably in the top 6. And if we even win 3 out of the 5 games or 2 out of the 5 games in the top 6, we give ourselves a really, really good chance of finishing 3rd.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, for me, if we do lose to Hearts and St Johnstone, we do end up in the bottom 6, what good is it sacking them? Because whoever comes in, well, we're not going to appoint someone till the summer anyway. We're not going to get relegated. We're not going to get into the relegation playoff. So if we do end up in the bottom 6, what good is it then sacking Lee Johnson? Because whoever comes in, we're not going to be able to change the fact that we're in the bottom 6 and we can't get Europe. If we do end up in the bottom 6, what I would like to see, however, is I would like to see none of our loan players get any minutes unless we know for a fact we're getting them on a permanent. Or, for example, Will Fish would have to play because we've got bloody no other centre halves. But I would like Murray Johnson to get some minutes. I would want Murray Aitken to get minutes, although he's meant to be out of contract in the summer. I would want, Oscar McIntyre to get minutes. I would want Josh O'Connor. I would want them to sort the Ethan Laidlaw contract situation and then, start him in those bottom 6 games, because although they would be tough games against people fighting for their lives, there's no chance in hell that we would then fall into a relegation playoff. I don't even know if that's mathematically possible, but it just wouldn't happen. So there wouldn't be any good from us then sacking them if we finish in the bottom 6. We may as well then just see out the rest of the season and then give them the transfer window anyway and allow them to do what they're going to do with the director of football and the head of the recruitment. If we do obviously finish in the top 6, you're exactly spot on what you're saying. You just need to have a look at Aberdeen, who, devil's advocate, you could say sacking Lee Johnson now and getting 2 wins on the bounce could help, but you don't know if
doesn't always work like that, Sean.
Yeah, it doesn't always work. So Barry Robson is on a great run of form at the moment. They could give him the job and then they could tail off again. They're just running off momentum at the moment at the right time of the season, whereas Hearts are in free fall at the wrong time of the season. So I agree with you as well. He should be given the summer, have a good strong window and then see where we are. But even in December, Aberdeen were about 8th in December. Well, they were 3rd and then they dropped down to 8th at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So it just goes to show that even in 1 month in this league, how tight it can be. But I do agree that he should be given another window, and as long as he's backed properly by the right people and we bring in the right people, as well as getting rid of the players that we need to get rid of, I think we could start strong next summer.
No, I agree, and it's a difficult one because it's part of football now. It's lose a few games on the bounce, and everyone conveniently forgets, all the good that someone has done for the club. And now it seems like managers losing their job is based on 3, 4, 5 games rather than what's going on before and stuff like that. And it's just the way that it is, and it's not going to change anytime soon. I just hope that the Hibs board look at Lee Johnson, what he's done. Yeah, he's not pulled up trees. He's not been having us, try to split the old firm or that. But I feel like for the first time in a few managers, anyway, that we've got a half decent shot of really building something quite good here.
Yeah,
I think Lee Johnson.
If we sack him as well, we're then just restarting that process. Like if you use
it's just boring.
If you use Joe Newell, for example, and I'm just using that because he came in under Hecky, he's been under 4 managers, so that's 4 different styles of play. That's 4 different people wanting him to play a different way. You look at Kevin Nisbet, who's had 3 as well, and obviously you've got people like Martin Boyle and Paul Hanlon and Lou Stevenson who have played under about 40 Hibs managers because they've been there for that long. But there's Aberdeen and Hearts at the moment, whether they give the job to Barry Robson or not, they're at the start of that process, right? So you don't know how long that's going to take for them to get up and running and fully operational, because like I said, they've not given the job to Barry Robson yet, and then they'll want to build on it from next season. They're obviously running on momentum at the moment, looking to get thirds, so that guarantees them European football, and then they can obviously build from there and chuck even more money at it. So I think it will be really interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks, but I definitely do not think that any good will come from sacking Lee Johnson at this moment in time.
I think to wrap up this chat about Lee Johnson, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. We could sack Lee Johnson and, it would probably be David Gray that comes in till the end of the season.
Yep.
And yes, he could put a couple of wins together. He could get us top 6. But then what if the manager that we bring in the summer is then shite and he's gone by Christmas?
Yeah.
Then where are we? Then we're looking back and going, actually, we probably should have given Lee Johnson maybe a.
Then that's the thing, mate. Because
exactly what happened with Jack Ross and Sean Maloney.
The more often we do that, the less appealing Hibs looks as a club, not only for players to join, but for managers to join as well, and we then become more of
a manager position maternity cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. The thing is, I'm only going to use this as an example because I'm an Arsenal fan, but at the start of the season, Arsenal fans were wanting Arteta sacked. Because of what happened last season. He's been in the job for about 3 years or something now, and he's worked wonders, obviously, this season, and I don't think we'll win the league and whatever, but the expectation has grown this season because of how well he's done, whereas last season, for the vast majority of last season, I would say about 70-80% of the support wanted him gone. But it was backed by the board, given the time, they got the structure correct behind the scenes, and, they're flourishing at the moment. And that's probably another reason why I think maybe we should just, for once in our life, as Hibs fans, just try and trust.
You happy with what we've got?
Well, not that. Just try and trust what the club are trying to do.
Yeah.
The Gordons have came out and said that they want to fulfil Ron's wishes and his intentions. So let's just trust them on that. We're not going to get relegated. Yes, we want Europe, and yes, we'll miss out on a great opportunity of finishing third if we don't. But let's just give it a little bit of time.
I think that's the best way to sum it up, to be honest, is just give it time. I think consistency is key with these things. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. If you're not consistent in the staff that you've got, then nothing's going to change. If we're changing every 6 months, every 8 months, then we're never going to get into those positions. And then what if we did get someone and they did well for 7 months and they got us Europe, and then first month of the new season they lose 5 on the bounce, and are we going to sack them just because? You look at Claudio Ranieri at Leicester.
He's wins the league and sacked months later.
Yeah, it's the grass isn't always green. I kind of say that.
I tell you what I would like to change is our bloody derby record. That's what I would like to change more than
I would like that
else.
as well. Yeah. What a segue, Sean. What a segue, because guess what we're going to be talking about next? It's like you've done this
before. That was the
before.
point in the comment, Liam. You didn't need to address the fact that it was a good set. You should have just moved
I
on.
tell you what, it is like this guy's done it before, eh?
My hosting
Host the
duties
show
are right up there
3
with the
times.
gods, let me tell you that.
Oh, unreal, mate. So let's address the elephant in the room. Robbie Nielsen got his jotters yesterday. Is that a help or a hindrance to Hearts coming into this derby?
I think it's a help to Hearts, if I'm honest.
Do we know who's taking the team?
They've not, at this moment in time, they've not put out a statement saying who's in charge. They didn't mention in the statement that they put out last night, they didn't mention anything about Lee McCulloch leaving or being involved. So a lot of Hearts fans are kind of concerned that he might or might not be in charge for the weekend. I think, mate, Gary Locke,
like fucking
Gary Locke will come in charge and he'll say that he's going to slit everyone's throat in the dressing room if they don't win or something, and then we'll get pumped at the weekend. Like, he will have them fired right up.
I can see it, mate. I can see it.
Do you know what, right? I don't actually think Nielsen, I know this isn't the Hearts Ramble, but for me, Nielsen shouldn't have been sacked because he won them the championship.
I think when you look at it, it's the exact same thing as what we're talking about here.
What about the grass not being greener?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, I don't know, time will tell in terms of Hearts, but you know, you look at Robbie Nielsen. I think Robbie Nielsen was a divisive figure at Hearts anyway. You know, from the first time he was there, and then you know, even if he got from Europe in that, and
the problem is, mate, is they don't like listening to him. That's the problem. Both times he's been at Hearts, he's finished as high as physically possible for them. He won them the championship in 2014-15. He finished third in the Premiership. He was second in the Premiership before he resigned and went down south. He came back. He won them the championship again. Finished third in the championship. Finished third in the league again. And at the point of sacking, he was fourth. And he'd got back-to-back Scottish Cup finals, albeit he obviously lost to Celtic. And got Europa League, but Europa Conference League group stage. Could you imagine if Hibs fans had a manager that had been that successful and wanted him sacked? Like, I think it's ridiculous that they were wanting him sacked based on that CV alone.
Do you think we could get him in?
He could do a job.
Do you think we could get him in somewhere?
I tell you, although his derby record's not great, so then he'll definitely fit in at Hibs.
Who deserves a start on Saturday? Is it Saturday? It is Saturday.
Do you know, I'm going to contradict everything I've probably said about Lee Johnson and playing 3 at the back. I want Lee Johnson to play 3 at the back, but I don't want it to be a 3-5-2. I want it to be a 3-4-3. I want Youan up top on his own with Kukarevich and Nisbet narrow in behind him to play the ball through to Youan and Youan to play on the last defender, so Youan can then run left and run right and feed off the ball from there, and then Kukarevich and Nisbet can go up and support. That leads me to the problem that you mentioned earlier on, is not having anyone on the bench to come off. However, I think that front three is very dangerous. I would then want a back three of Hanlon, Fish, and either Lewis Stevenson or Mikey Devlin. Obviously, I know that's not great.
I forgot about him.
I know that's neither of them are that great as a centre half pairing, but a three of a back three. But I think either one of them could do a job alongside Will Fish and Paul Hanlon. Based on Cadden's form over recent months, maybe even as far as a season, I think there's no harm in giving Lewis Miller a start. Obviously, we're at home to Hearts; it's not at Tynecastle, so we should give him a start. I would put him at right wing or right midfield, right wing back, whatever. Because we've got Lewis Stevenson at left centre half, I would then have Trebaya, and then I would have Egan Riley and Joe Newell in the middle. So I feel like that would give us the best opportunity going forward because we'll have our best attackers on the pitch. It would also give us a lot of defensive cover because Stevenson can merge into the left back position. You've got Egan Riley who can fall back into centre half or right back, and then obviously you've got Lewis Miller that will be playing down the right side anyway. It does go against everything that I've said, but I think that is the only way to get your three best players on the pitch, and ultimately our three best players are Juan, Kukarevich and Nisbet.
Absolutely agree. Sean Corrigan plays Football Manager 1, starts talking about 3-4-3s with double false nines and all the rest of it.
Inside forwards and false nines and shadow strikers.
all over it, mate. All over it. I think it's a half decent shout. Remains to be seen what he's actually going to do with the team on Saturday. It'll be an interesting one, to say the least. I think we're doomed for a 4-0 draw, mind.
Not had one in about 4 games, so we're due one.
I tell you what, see if it was a 0-0 draw, I would bite your hand off right now. I would bite your hand off for a point on Saturday. But I can what predictions. Let's go for a prediction, Sean. What are you thinking about?
Is it my starting 11 starting, or is it Lee Johnson starting 11?
Lee Johnson's.
2-0 Hearts. I think Hearts. I just think Hearts will get a bounce from getting rid of Nielsen. I think it'll give a lot of the players a little bit of freedom. They're always up for the derbies, and I think a lot of the Hibs players will have in the back of their mind the 2-3-0 defeats and the fact that we can't seem to really come back once we concede, which has happened a lot as well.
I think, and it's probably just my Hibs tinted specs on here, I think that the 3-0 defeats will help to spur them on. I think the defeat against Motherwell and yesterday will help, and Lee Johnson will get like a sniper or something in the changing room before the game, or like Rod Stewart or something, to give him a pep talk. And I think we'll go out and we'll maybe nick it. We'll maybe nick it 1-0 or 2-1, something like that. And everyone on Twitter will be chuffed to bits with Lee Johnson again. And
if it's my starting 11, I'm telling you, it's 4-0 Hibs. But we'll see what happens.
Fucking hell! Fuck's sake! So you're saying 2-0 Hearts. I'm saying 1-0. I'll go 2-1 Hibs, because I can't see us. I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, to be honest.
Do you know what? I'll go 2-1 Hearts. There you go.
2-1 Hearts. Who's scoring for Hibs then?
I'll go Kukarevich.
Kukarevich.
I think we'll take the lead. We'll not be able to finish our chances. We won't be able to see out the game, and then Hearts will nick it.
Fair dues. I mean, it always happens.
Sorry, boys.
It always happens. What a positive podcast we've had this week. Anyway, let's move on to even more positiveness with our absolute plethora of listener questions.
Now it's time to answer the Hibs Ramble listener questions.
Right, Sean. We'll start with the correct question again this week. I noticed that you dug Mark out last time about not asking what he's having for his tea first. So John very kindly has put fuck, what are you having for tea, and fuck Lee Johnson. Sorry. I don't know who he's apologising to, if he's apologising to us or if he's apologising to Lee Johnson.
And I also don't think there's any question in there at all.
He's saying, what are you having for tea?
No,
but he's not put a question mark. I mean,
I thought he was saying, fuck what you're having for your tea, as in, like, he's not going to bother asking it.
Oh, right. Oh, fair enough. Well, I'm going to answer it anyway. It's 25-4 as it stands, and I don't know what I'm having for my tea, because we need to go and do the big shop just after I've finished here. So I don't know.
I'm in the same boat as you, Liam, actually. I'm unaware.
Well, I mean, you could probably make a pretty educated guess, Sean. It's going to be chicken and rice, or chicken and pasta, or tomato and pasta, or something like that. You're a very easy man to read.
I'm very easy to please.
Chicken and starch, basically. That's your meals every day.
Fine by me. I'll enjoy them, don't you worry.
Gains, bro. Gains.
All about the gains.
Right, we have got so many questions this week, so we'll try and rattle through them pretty quickly because I'm conscious of the time.
This is where Liam means to say thank you very much for everyone's input. We really, really appreciate it.
Yes, I do. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate it because a lot of the people who have actually submitted questions, I don't recognise their names. I've not seen them on Twitter before. So if it's your first time asking a question or your first time seeing the ramble on Twitter, then thanks very much for getting involved. We really do appreciate it. Ryan asks, serious lack of quality in the middle of the park. Someone has to take the ball off the defence. Jago and Campbell can't pass the ball, absolutely honking. I don't see a question there, but they were honking yesterday. And like I said earlier on, I think that's where CJ Egan-Riley he's the glue that holds that midfield together when he's in there. I think he's the one that takes the ball and moves it on.
There is a serious lack of creative midfielders in our squad, and there has been probably since Stevie Mallon left.
Yeah. Noah's asking, despite Josh Campbell having a prolific season in a goal-scoring sense, many games this season have passed him by, like today. Is he technically good enough to play in the number 10 role, or should someone with a better first touch and passing ability be playing there? For me, Josh Campbell's a difficult one because I really like Josh Campbell, and I'm not in the business of slating Josh Campbell in any way, shape or form. But I think he's one of those players that's kind of in limbo between a few different positions. For me, it's like Chris Cadden. I don't think he's a right back or a right wing back. I think he's somewhere in the middle. And I think Josh Campbell is not a 6, he's not an 8. I think he's somewhere in between a 6 and 8. Which he's a 7 then. Well, he's not a 7, is he? He's in between the roles of a 6 and an 8 for me. And I think he has done all right in that 10 role, but I think he's only been there because I don't know if there's any better options for someone to play in that
hole. Has been injured as well. Yeah, I think having someone like Josh Campbell in not a deeper position, because that it's clear that didn't work under Sean Maloney, but having a very creative midfielder alongside him, like I'm talking of the likes of like a Scott Allen or like a Stevie Mallon or something. Having someone like that alongside him would be much better for his game, I think. But then again, we would need to bring in, to have those type of two players play alongside each other, you then need to have like a Casemiro holding midfielder.
Well, that's where Jago fits in for me, because if you have Jago and then you have, even if you go 6, 8, 10 and you have Jago in the 6, Campbell in the 8, and then whoever in the 10, the creative player in the 10.
Well, for me, it would be Egan really that you would have in that 6. It wouldn't be Jago, if I'm honest, based on Jago's previous couple of weeks' performances. But I know what you're trying to say.
No, but we're thinking about, like, in terms of the style of player. Jago is that style of player who'll battle and get himself flung in. Having Campbell in 8, I think, is a good shot. I think that's probably where his best position is, a wee bit more advanced, but not too advanced. Gets himself in and about both boxes and stuff, and he's a proper workhorse, and I think that's one of his best strengths. We'll move on. Ewan asks, should Lee Johnson be sacked? And then he adds, I know we have just went on a good run of results, but the inconsistency that this team's shown throughout the season is concerning, and I think that the inconsistency, that's a difficult word to say, by the way. The inconsistency is to continue, I struggle to see us progressing if he is to continue as manager. I'm very inconsistent at saying inconsistent.
I think the inconsistency lies with the lack of quality that we have throughout the squad, and I think that's the problem, and that's why we're so inconsistent. I think if we had a better quality squad, not just 3 or 4 individuals, then I think we would be in a better position. Obviously, Egan-Riley's on loan, so he ain't coming back. Kukurevich is on loan, so he ain't coming back. I think Nisbet will leave in the summer. Boyle might not be the player he is when he comes back. And I don't know at the moment if we're going to get Ewan on a perm. So at the moment, we don't really have any out-and-out brilliant players if you take away our loans and Nisbet.
Yeah.
So it will then leave us with a bang average squad, and which is why it comes back to my point earlier on about the quality of player that we're going to recruit. If the quality of player is better, then we will be better, more consistently.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And, the only person who knows what a good signing is going to be in a Lee Johnson Hibs team is Lee Johnson.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And if you start that process again, we're just going to get the same inconsistencies moving forward. IMO. Mel Clements asks, does Lee Johnson know his best 11 yet? I'm still unconvinced. I think this is a brilliant question because, to be honest, I don't think he does. He's had that many injuries, that many sort of dips in form that I don't think he's been able to trust a consistent group of 11 players. But I think he knows
his starting 7 or his best 7 maybe.
Yeah.
But again, that comes back to what we said earlier about the lack of ability throughout the whole squad.
Yeah. Fraser asks, what is actually wrong with Hibs?
A lot.
I think we could have another hour-long podcast talking about that. Callum Hunter says must play 2 up top from the start next week. I think it's a given. We really need that 2 up top. The Nisbet and Kukurevich. We said it for weeks and weeks. It's going to be a really good partnership when they both get back up to speed. Cameron Cooper says never play Newell, Jago and Campbell in the same midfield again. We touched on it earlier on. I don't think they're very good at playing together. So fair dues. It's a fair shout. Robbie Grant asks, and I'll let you answer this one. Why are we still supporting Hibs?
A way of life.
We kind of have to.
We want to be down, depressed, and in a pit of misery every weekend. Facts.
We're suckers for punishment. That's basically it. BT Wilson says thoughts, and then he's put every Hibs player right now pointing to a gif of Homer Simpson clutching his head, saying, "I made such a mess of this." Do you agree?
And yeah, it is concerning, but it'll all change when we beat Hearts at the weekend, Liam, like you said.
Well, here's hoping. Kieran McKenna. People think Newell is a player, and for the life of me, I can't figure out why. I think this is a lot of slander for our players.
See, the thing is with Joe Newell, again, it comes back to very similar to Josh Campbell, where the balance needs to be correct in the middle of the park to get the best out of him, if that makes sense.
I completely agree. I think that Joe Newell, he's definitely a good player. He oozes class sometimes, but it's sort of he's in and out when it comes to the form and stuff. But I think Joe Newell is a half decent player. Nick Rutherford. What do you think of the streaky Lee reputation Lee Johnson came in with, and what do you think caused these wild shifts in form? The runs of defeat have both started at the Old Firm, which is a great observation because I hadn't really thought about that. But
I think every time we've been beaten by the Old Firm, Lee Johnson has then questioned either his philosophy or the way he goes into those types of matches, and that's led to him making changes that he probably wouldn't have made if we were maybe playing the Old Firm once and then had 6 other games or whatever like that afterwards. I think the fact that, especially recently, we've played the Old Firm back to back, I don't think that's obviously helped us. So I think it just casts a bit of doubt in Lee Johnson's mind with certain players that we have, which again comes back to the quality that we have throughout the squad. Yeah,
I think the bottom line is the quality. That's where the wild shifts in form comes. If a poorer player is in good form, he's going to score goals or he's going to keep clean sheets. This, that, and the next thing. And if he's off form, then it's going to go terribly, terribly wrong. We're not in a position where we can go out and buy the best in the world or even the best in the country. So we're kind of stuck. We're kind of stuck here. But it's quite a good question there, Nick. So cheers for sending that in. Callum Hunter just says guff again. Fair play. Lee's asking, lads, how can anyone think that Lee Johnson is the right man to take us forward? He has more lives than a Cheshire cat. Get him fucking out.
Well, if you've made it this far in the podcast, then we thank you, considering the Lee JohnsOUT rant that both of us went on earlier on.
I can completely see where people are coming from, where they're wanting Lee Johnson to go. I think I've been in that position lots of times. It just depends where you are with the manager. You know, I feel like my shift in attitude with Lee Johnson compared to my attitude with Sean Maloney is vastly, vastly different. I think it depends on how you rate the philosophy, how you rate what you've seen from the manager. And, you know, if I was calling for Maloney's head, you know, well before he was sacked. So I think it just depends where you are with the manager. I don't think people are right for saying, oh, he shouldn't go. I don't think people are wrong for saying, oh, I want him gone. I think it all comes down to how you perceive what's going on.
I think a lot of people can see what Lee Johnson's trying to do and what he's trying to instill into the club. A lot of people obviously can't really stand listening to him now, especially after defeats. Mm-hmm. But if you look at like Jack Ross's tenure at the club, a lot of the football under him wasn't pretty at all, although yes, he was effective and got us third and got us to semi-finals and finals, albeit it means jack shit if you don't win them. I think a lot of people towards the end of Jack Ross's tenure and even throughout his tenure were sick of him because of the style that he had and his inability to see out a lead and how he would go on the lap and then, you know, sit back and park the bus kind of thing. Whereas with Lee Johnson, he wants to win the ball as fast as he can. He wants to break as fast as he can. He doesn't really care about having a lot of the ball. He just wants to be effective when we've got it. And I think a lot of people can see that. I think it's just frustrating for everyone, you know, Lee Johnson and the fans, that what he's trying to do, a lot of the players that he's asking to do can't do it. And he's trying to rectify that. He tried to rectify it in January, and I have no doubt that he will try and rectify it in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Billy says, should we have signed Stephen Fletcher? I'll give you a one-word answer. No. Liam Baldry, Jago, what's the point? How do we get Miko and Nisbet in the same team? And McCurdy was lively. I think we were going to touch on Harry McCurdy before. I think, like you said, he's had a lot of stick on Twitter for yesterday, but I actually thought from what I saw of him in the first half, he was
right. If good. Harry McCurdy is normal looking, right, and what I mean by that is his socks are at a normal length, he has a normal haircut, and he has a normal build of a footballer, he ain't getting the hate that he's getting. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot stems from his personality and the way he looks and the way he conducts himself. And I think that riles a lot of people, where because he's not performing on the pitch, they automatically don't like his demeanour and the way that he is. Whereas if he
was, then they would be loving it.
If he looked like a Josh Campbell or whatever, it would be like, all right, okay, just don't play him because he's not great. And he wouldn't get like the hatred that he's getting. Last week when he came on, like I said, he wasn't the problem. The last couple of games that he's featured in that I can actually remember. So at the weekend there against Dundee United, at the weekend against Motherwell, the other weekend there against Motherwell, and when he came on, or when he played against Killie away, albeit all three of those games we've lost, he seemed to be the only one that was trying to win the ball at every opportunity, trying things. He was driving forward. He seemed to be the only real bright spark while he was on the pitch at that point. So to question, yes, he might have had a bad game, and I don't want to sit here and say, oh, he tried his hardest, well done, like that's good enough to pass as a Hibs player, because it's not. But that doesn't make him the scapegoat whenever we lose, because ultimately we have another 10 players on the park that have contributed to that. And realistically, he's playing right wing, and the goals are coming from all ends of the pitches in the games that he's played. So that doesn't mean that he's at direct fault. And you've got to remember, the chance that we had at the start of the match came from his shot/cross. And he found himself in a lot of space at the start of the match as well, and was always asking for the ball, and he was always driving. One of the problems I think Harry McCurdy's got is he dwells on the ball a little bit too much and takes a little bit too much time and an extra touch, and that's what kills him. And I think because of the way that he looks and the way that he carries himself on the pitch, I think that contributes to a lot of the hate that he gets.
He's not going to shag you, Shaun.
I certainly would not want that.
We'll touch on Liam's other points here, because he's put Jago, what is the point? I've seen a lot of Jago slander since the game, and I don't think he was very good at all. And he's put, how do we get Miko and Nisbet in the same team? And Shaun outlined that for you a wee while ago. So there you go, Liam. All your points answered. Gav Dick, our main man. I'm not going to even proofread this comment because I don't want to dig him out for his spelling or grammar. So I'm just going to read it.
He had a bad enough weekend watching Hibs. Let's not dig him out anymore.
Yeah, let's no kick him while he's doing. He says, honestly, lackluster performance. Had so much of the ball and did nothing with it. We really need a number 10. Is Ewan Henderson the answer? Personally, I don't think he is up to it, even though he did nothing bad today when he was on. Don't think Ewan Henderson's the answer for a creative number 10. I think in a different formation, Ewan Henderson can be a really effective player for Hibs, but definitely not a 10 for me.
Nah, not for me either. I think it comes back to the point I made a few weeks ago, where I think football's getting away from that kind of luxury number 10 type of player. You don't see that many of them kicking about anymore. So I think it's just trying to find the best way to get the best out of the rest of your team.
Yep. Kev Wilson says bottom 6 incoming. Defeat next week and JohnsIN is gone. Like we said earlier on, I wouldn't be surprised if we finished bottom 6 and lost to Hearts and JohnsIN left. I wouldn't be surprised if we lost to Hearts, finished bottom 6 and JohnsIN stayed. So we just kind of need to wait and see what happens. Keith Robertson. Now, I've just read this. And did you know this, Shaun? In the space of 14 months, Jim Goodwin has recorded wins against Hibs with 3 different teams, St Mirren, Aberdeen and now Dundee United. How embarrassing is that?
Extremely embarrassing.
Very embarrassing.
Let's sack Lee Johnson and give Jim Goodwin the job, because he clearly knows how to beat Hibs, so hopefully he'll be able to stop teams beating Hibs. That being
at least if he's at
Hibs,
he can't beat Hibs.
Yeah.
Jack says, what were your thoughts on the attackers yesterday? Don't want to start ranting about Jago and Cadden. Fair enough. Thought McCurdy was okay, not great, not bad. Thought Nisbet was pretty poor. Thought Ewan was off it myself. I just don't think anyone had a really good game. When it came to it, I think everyone, at most maybe get a 6 out of 10. Give Miko a 6.5 for his goal. But for me, everyone was pretty poor. It was kind of across the board, really. Haley, this is obviously put in before Robbie Nielsen gets sacked. Is El Sakiko Part 2 on next week? I think it could have been. It really could have been. But unfortunately not. Remember that one? It was it Paul Heckingbottom and Craig Levine? And we went 1-0 up, but we're saying you're getting sacked in the morning. And then they went 2-1 up, and they were saying you're getting sacked in the morning. Oh, good times, man. Good times. Dino says, how the hell... Again, what a manager, by the way. What a manager. Dino says, how the hell can the players not realise that a win today, you have a chance of being above them next week? Fucking typical Hibs. And it's just been like that ever since I've watched Hibs. Whenever we got a chance to leapfrog someone or get a good result based on someone's poor result, we never capitalise on it.
I think the squad have realised for about 6 months that we've had the opportunity to go third, and they just clearly aren't good enough to take that opportunity.
Yep, no, you're absolutely right. And we've got a couple more. Let me just scroll down here. We've got David who says, we're shite, we're really shite. Why are we so shite? Listen, if we had the answers, we'd be in the dugout. And then we've got hold on, have we got any more? I think we might have some more. 2 seconds. This is really unprofessional from me. We got one on Instagram. Let me go over on Instagram and read
just
it.
We got a couple on Instagram, but just while you're going over that, I don't know if you've seen Ian Sterling's one. Neil Francis Lennon, yes or no?
No, absolutely not. We've got one just over on Instagram now. You can get us there as well. We're at the Hibs Ramble. If you've got any questions or anything or talking points that you want to send us after the game, you can contact us on there as well. We've got one here from some guy called Martin Corrigan. He says, should have had a different goalie, Hendo on from the beginning, Kukarevich on from the start. I don't think McCurdy has much to offer, to be honest. So you're I think
there's maybe at least
Johnson
one good take in there. I don't know if they're all good takes, but there's maybe at least one in there somewhere.
I don't know, Martin. I think they're all good takes, and I think you should ground Shaun for saying that you've only got one good take. I think Murray Johnson would have been a liability, and I listened to last week and completely agree with Mark when he says that if we put him in now, he makes a couple of mistakes, he's going to get short confidence, and that's exactly not what we need at all.
Yeah.
And to wrap us up, our last question. Thanks so much for everyone who's got involved today with the questions and stuff. We really, really appreciate it. Charlie says, personally, I see no point in sacking Johnson so close to the end of the season. Let him stay, let him attempt to make top 6, then bring in another manager next season. So it's a bit of a change of pace from what we've actually been talking about, and it's a different kind of opinion. To be honest, if it happens, it happens. But for me, I think keep Lee Johnson in the job, because it means that they can then set up and go again next season. If we let him go till the end of the season and bring someone else in, we're starting at square one. Yeah. And it's just not what we need. We need to trust the process, like you said.
Agreed.
And that wraps us up. That was about 40 questions that we had.
40 questions
like
that
we said before.
We loved every one of them.
Absolutely. Like we said before, we really appreciate everyone getting involved, even if it was after a bit of a lackluster defeat. We always appreciate people and listeners, getting involved and trying to interact with us. So, if you want to chat with us again, we are at the Hibs Ramble on Instagram, on Twitter. You can get us on Facebook and all the rest of it. And remember, as soon as we get to 1,000 followers, we're doing a wee giveaway for one of these very fancy mugs with Shaun's words of wisdom on the back. But no, that's us until next week. We'll be reviewing yet another Derby defeat this season. Oh no, it's been an absolute pleasure, Shaun. Thanks so much for joining me, mate.
No problem. Thanks so much for brightening up my bank holiday.
Oh, that's all right, mate. It's all right. Happy Easter, folks. Have a good one. See you
Cheers.
later.
Bye.
Bye.